sure you guys have some questions, so go ahead and ask. Go.
For the Wigs, what do you say to people that I don't know these rabbis who say it's not okay, but I know Rabbi Shneas and I know Rav Feinstein, so I'm going to rely on them and not these people I've never heard of.
Okay, well, the handful of rabbis that permitted wigs did things that people are not considering. Number one, they permitted wigs that look very different than the wigs of today. They permitted wigs that looked like wigs. They actually looked more like brooms than they did wigs. That's one. Two, no rabbi in the world, not even Moshe Rabbeinu. Not even Moshe Rabbeinu can permit avodah zarah. Not even Moshe Rabbeinu can permit idol worship. And that's the second thing. The third thing is that anyone that wears a wig has to determine, why are they wearing a wig? Are they wearing a wig because it's a mitzvah? They want to cover their head, the covering their hair mitzvah. Or are they wearing a wig because they want to look good for Carlos and Stephen from the supermarket? If they're wearing a wig for Carlos and Stephen, then it doesn't make a difference what Rabbi Moshe Feinstein or the Lubavitcher Rebbe say, or anybody said. It doesn't make a difference. Because you're wearing it for Carlos and Stephen, so it doesn't make a difference. It's an avirah anyway. It's a sin anyway. Even if you're doing it because some rabbi said you're allowed, it's still a sin. Why? Because you're not doing it for the mitzvah. You're not doing it for the mitzvah. You're doing it because you want to look good. You want to look like your hair is already made, and you just came from the runway. So it's not a mitzvah anyway. If you're doing it for the mitzvah, then you have to get a wig that has a kosher certification, right? You have to get a kosher certification. Now, there's actually a group in Israel that brought something to my attention that I never knew. When I first started this whole fight against wigs and this avodah zarah thing a few years ago, something came out that is mamash extraordinary. Now, everyone knows there's only one irgun, there's only one place that certifies wigs as kosher. One. There's no, like in kosher meat, there's like a new one every week. There's a new OU and U and this one and RB and this B and that B. Every week there's something. Every week somebody else is a new shochet. That's in kosher meat, or in what's called parv. All different types of koshering institutions. But for wigs, there always has been one, run by a famous rabbi in Israel by the name of Gross. Now, he's known as a very big, well-known Talmid Chacham. And he said, after Rav Yashiv, alav shalom, 14 years ago, said that wigs that come from real hair are coming from avodah zarah, and therefore they're not allowed. Wigs that are coming from real hair are coming from a source of idol worship, and therefore they're not allowed. Rabbi Gross said, we'll make a kosher institution to kosher these wigs. That's the part everyone knows. No chidush here. What's the chidush that came out recently? There's a book, and I don't have the name of the book on the top of my head, it's in my phone. It's a book of Sheilot and Tshuvot, of questions and answers. It's a Chachamim, they work off Sheilot and Tshuvot. And he writes himself, Gross writes himself, that when Rav Yashiv came out with this psak of saying that all the wigs that came from India are not allowed because avodah zarah, he disagreed with him. He says, even if they come from the Tanser, from the avodah zarah, from India, it's still okay. Meaning, even if it's coming from avodah zarah, it's still okay. So what does this mean in the grand scope of things? This is like someone that eats pig for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but he's the guy that's certifying your meat kosher. How can you kosher something if you don't believe in it in the first place? How can you kosher a wig if you don't believe it needs to be koshered? If you don't believe there's any problem in the first place, that Rav Yashiv was wrong, what's the kosher certification doing? The second thing is that something else that I never talked about before, I guess Hashem wants me to say it now. the kosher certification industry is a complete joke. How is it a joke? Unlike previous years, and this doesn't have to do with all of you, obviously, and probably most of you, that's not relevant to, but Hashem wants me to say it anyway, because you asked this question. Hashem has rules. There's everything allowed, everything not allowed, and so on and so forth. Now, in the old days, if you wanted to go into the any business that involved a different country, you'd have to fly there. You have to fly to China, you have to fly to India, you have to fly somewhere and negotiate, maybe pay a few politicians under the table. It wasn't easy. If you wanted to go into the wig business, for example, 30, 40 years ago, you had to go to India or China or one of these other countries, negotiate with a few people, agree on a container every several months that they're going to ship you, and so on and so forth. That's how business was done. Today, you don't have to go anywhere. Today, you just go to your computer. You go to Alibaba.com. You type on Alibaba.com, kosher wigs. You type kosher wigs. You'll have a slew of manufacturers, right? Kosher wigs, kosher men wigs, kosher women wigs, kosher this wig, kosher that wig. Sometimes it's kosher, sometimes it's not kosher. And some of them actually were stupid enough to put the kosher certification on, which is they print themselves with his name on it, with Gross's name on it, but it's upside down. Like the English is right side up, but the Hebrew is upside down because they obviously don't know what it says. And they even tell you, oh, by the way, the wigs are kosher because the rabbi comes here every few months. How could it be kosher if he comes here every few months? He has to be here all the time. It's like saying the restaurant is kosher and the rabbi comes here every few months to check the meat. What do you mean? He has to be there every day. He has to check that the meat that you're selling is not pork. It's not dead animals from the street. It's not some rats. He has to be there all the time. That's a mashgiach. It's not there once in a blue moon. For a wig to be kosher, that means you have to know the source of the hair. It means from the time it gets taken out of the head all the way to the manufacturer when they clean it, then to the next part of the if they're dyeing it, and so on and so forth. So the point is that you have a mashgiach for kosher supposed to know exactly the source of the hair from the beginning all the way until it lands in some woman's head. So if you're telling me that he's there every few months, or that the kosher certification can come or not come, it's up to you. If you want it, we'll print it for you. If you don't want us to print it, it's less paper. Shows it's a complete joke. And last but not least, we spoke to a few, more than a few, people that deal in the wig business. And we asked them, listen, you've been in it for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, however long they've been in it. After this koshering came out, did anything change for you? I said, yeah, we have to pay a bill now, an extra bill. It's like, no, aside from paying the fee for koshering the wig, is there anything else you have to do? Did you have to change supplier? Because maybe your supplier was from India, maybe you have to go to China now, or to Brazil, or to Jehannam, or to wherever. You have to go somewhere else? No, same supplier. Okay, did your supplier have to change something? Maybe they had to send a rabbi there, or somebody, or you had to go there? No, nothing had to change. Did the prices change? Did it go up? Did it go? Nothing changed. Nothing changed. What changed? I have to pay a bill every year, and whatever I buy is kosher by default. It's like saying, I go to McDonald's, I show them a piece of paper. Hey, by the way, from now on, guys, you're kosher. Give me the pork sandwich with the cheese on it, please. It's the biggest joke in history, but people are fooled. Why? Why are people fooled by this? Because it's a convenient lie. It's a convenient lie to believe because it allows women to look like they're single. It allows women to look like their hair is already made at all times. It allows women to get away with a mitzvah that they're obligated to do by covering their hair with either a hat or a scarf, instead by looking like one of the runway models. And it looks better than natural hair. And it's a mitzvah that they could say, Rabbi so-and-so said it's okay. They could blame some rabbi that said it's okay 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 years ago, even though what he said is okay and what you're doing today is two different things.